Welcome back. Don't go out there, fans and listeners. We thank you for tuning in again. Thank you for all the continued support. Nico, what's up, brother?
What's up?
How are you? I'm a little distraught. Nico and I just got home from the theater. We went and saw 2024's The Crow, and I certainly have some thoughts. We haven't really talked about it since he saw the movie. My movie started an hour before his, and so we haven't really talked. We're just now hopping on. He's fresh home, so we're gonna kind of give you a little instant reaction here. We're gonna do our best to do spoiler free since the movie literally did just come out today. And like I was telling Nico, I mean, there's not any one scene that I love. There's not any one scene that I hated. So I don't even think spoilers are really necessary for me to get my shit off at least. So let's go ahead and start us with some general thoughts. I'll let you go first because I think we have a little bit different opinion of the movie and a little bit different opinion of the original as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first. I have no allegiance or any strong emotional ties to the original, and I saw that movie when I was a kid, but I didn't really remember it. So we rewatched it recently, and I got to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the original Crow. Not that it's god awful. I just don't think it. I don't think it aged that well personally, and I know there's a lot of affection. Considering what happened to Brandon, R.I.P. That's a terrible situation. But I wasn't one of these people that was just like pissed off and infuriated that they're redoing The Crow. I mean, the original does have sequels, so I mean,
Mhm.
why not make another one now? Maybe try and improve upon or just tell a different story. And it does tell a different story, which we'll get into. Uh, Overall, though, whenever I left, I kind of thought of another superhero. I don't know if the Crow is considered a superhero or Eric Draven, whatever, but it
Mhm.
reminded me of Blade a little bit in the fact that there's a lot of action. It's a cool character, but I just don't have any strong feelings for the movies because it's just not my kind of thing. Like this movie is really just not in my alley. But I do have some positives, and we'll get into it. I just thought the movie was just okay, and I'll get into my negatives too because I definitely have some negatives. But I'll let you go with general thoughts.
So yeah, I completely understand and expected that the movie wouldn't be your style. Um, the original as well. It just doesn't. When I think of movies that I know that you like and that I think you would like, it doesn't really fall in that category. I saw The Crow, the original, when I was pretty young, and I do have nostalgia for it. Nostalgia, I've been very vocal. Nostalgia only goes so far with me. Like I don't want legacy sequels necessarily all the time. I don't want reboots all the time because I don't have that need to feed the nostalgic fire. But also, I can watch movies that I loved in my childhood, watch them as an adult, and realize, holy shit, that sucked. There's plenty of those. Ghosts of Mars. Go listen to our review of that. I said when that movie, I was in like eighth grade when the movie came out. I thought it was awesome. Re, we reviewed it. I rewatched it. I was like, God, this is awful. This movie, to me, was bad, pretty much all around. I haven't logged my letterbox review yet because I've been kind of struggling to vocalize, put into words how I feel about it. There are some positives, not many, but to me, the first one has this charm. It's a tragic story, but then you add the tragic reality of what happened to Brandon Lee, and that makes it even more. I don't want to say tragic in, but it does add to the tragic story, and but throughout the story, the movie just had this charm to it. It had this this certain flair that you can't put your finger on like, oh, that's what makes it awesome. It just was, at least to me and at least to a lot of people. It's a cult classic. Um, Not to mention the badass guitar solo. But this movie lacked all of that charm. I'm not one of those that hates reboots. I've been vocal. I don't want reboots. I want original material, but I don't go into reboots just automatically like, no, I hate it because the first was perfect. There's been plenty of times where we've got a reboot and I've given it a chance and I've liked it. And there's been some that I've given a chance and I didn't care for it. Just three off the top of my head. Look at our logo: Friday the 13th, 2009, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. any one of those, I went into open with an open mind, and I can say positive things about all three of those movies. Nightmare on Elm Street is the worst of those that I just mentioned, but even it has some things that I gave praise to when we reviewed it. This movie sucked, just point blank. To me, go ahead and get into your pros. My pros are going to be very short, so maybe you'll say something that will trigger something. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did like that. So go ahead.
Well, I'll say it was good to see Bill Skarsgård in a role that I haven't seen him in yet. Like we've seen him, as Pennywise. He was great, but he was a clown in makeup, not recognizable. We've seen him in Barbarian, but it was, he was just that kind of like the cool, chill guy, and we didn't get to see him tap into this kind of a role. I will say, I thought Bill Skarsgård was just good. I don't think he was like anything mind blowing. Like he didn't like knock my socks off or anything, set me on fire, like I say a lot. I thought FKA Twigs was good in her role as well. I thought she did a fine job acting. I'm always going to be a fan of Danny Houston in a horror movie ever since I've seen him in 30 Days of Night, one of the very first reviews we've ever done. I think he's just a menacing looking person. Like, he plays a villain very well. I like him in American Horror Story Coven, I believe he's in. I thought he was good in that as well. Excuse me. I thought the violence, whenever there was violence, there was action. I thought all of that was good as well. I thought
Mm-hmm.
95% of the blood and effects all looked pretty good. There were some that looked
Yeah.
a little CGI, little noticeable. But the end in the opera house, I thought that was really good. I was entertained, and if Dustin knows me, like I'm not the type of person who likes to watch movies that are just mindless
Yeah.
violence, mindless action. It's just not my cup of tea. Like I like
Yeah.
weird stuff that makes me think, makes me feel emotions. Or if I'm going to watch something mindless, it's something like Jason Lives, just because it's a cool character. You know, cool stuff happens. It's nothing but like the John Wicks of the world. That just doesn't do it for
Mm.
me.
Mm.
And
He's
I
up
know
on John
you're
Wick. Use a different one. Use a different one. Use the Expendables. That's my go-to. The
okay.
Expendables
Okay,
is
that's
that
fair. I
mindless
haven't seen the
action. Yeah.
Expendable. I mean, I've seen the first John Wick. I didn't hate it, but it's just like it didn't make me want to go watch a second one. I'll put it that way. Uh, I think the violence is fun, but I'm really kind of running out of positives. Like if go ahead, you go. I'll bounce off of anything you got to say. But that's really what
Well.
I think. The two leads are pretty good. The violence is good. The action,
Mm-hmm.
the effects are pretty 95% good. I mean, I don't have a problem with like the way the movie was shot. I thought it looked pretty good as well, either, but it didn't blow me away either. And there were some good jump scares when like the gunshots, few gunshots got me to jump because I wasn't expecting them and stuff like that. But go ahead.
Bill Skarsgård, pro number one. And when I say pro, I mean that's a pro to this movie, and he is a pro. He is a damn good actor. You mentioned, we saw him as Pennywise, we saw him as Barbarian. He's also fantastic in John Wick Chapter 4, which you haven't seen, but he's the villain in that movie, and he's damn good at it. I've liked him in everything, even that shitty movie Eternals, which I know you haven't seen because that's a Marvel MCU movie. He was good in that. He was good in Deadpool 2. He's good, and I thought he crushed what he was given in this role. So you say he didn't set you on fire. That's fair. I think that's more of the movie, how the movie was written, because I I don't know. To me, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I just love him as an actor, but he crushed it. I thought FKA Twigs was fine. She wasn't great to me, but she was fine. But the only other positive that I really have, I mean, the cinematography was good, but the action, the gore, the violence, there were some creative kills um,
Yeah.
that I don't, it's not really a spoiler, but I'll spoil one. Dude's wielding a katana through that opera house, like you said, and when he detached the lower jaw from the upper jaw, that was pretty sick. That's
Yeah, it
pretty
was.
sick. So yeah, I thought the black blood effect was cool, and that's really it. I think is it true to the source material? Sure. Is the emotional depth of the characters good? Sure, but there's a lot of issues that I have as well. So let's go ahead and get into some of the issues, unless you have more pros. But if you don't, go ahead and give me some of your cons.
I think I've said my pros, to be honest with you, unless something just jumps out of nowhere like Randy Orton. Cons. Movie is too long and it drags in a lot of
Hmm.
spots. Like I felt the runtime quite a few times, and I know like they're painting this love like they paint the love story for a long time, and they build up this love story for a long, long time. They're in this rehabilitation center for troubled use or whatever for a decent amount of time, building that up as well. Like the original Cry, I rewatched it recently. Like you kind of get right into the action, like right off rip.
Yeah.
Like I have my issues with that one too because I feel like that movie takes too long to just get over with, considering it started right at the beginning. But whenever we review that, we'll touch on that. But that's my biggest issues is I'm not familiar with the source material, so I'm kind of just watching it to learn as I'm watching, if that makes any sense at all. But the pacing and the runtime, you feel it. Like I felt it a lot.
Yeah. So, like I said, I don't hold reboots to the standard of the original all the time, but it's hard not to in this one because it's missing what made the first one so good. It's missing that charm. The pacing, you said, pacing was awful. To me, we spend so much time with their love story, but we don't really address shit that I want to know. Like, what does his horse dying? Oh, don't want to. Okay, that happens in the opening scene. It's not really spoiling anything. What did he
Yeah, it's
do
right
to
at the
end up?
beginning.
It's right at the beginning. Um, but what does he do to land himself in this facility, in this like prison psych ward, center for troubled youth, whatever you want to call it? What did he do? Why was he there? And she got there. I think that it was a little too convenient how she got there. Like that seemed like a pretty high security place. And what she got arrested for seemed like she would have went to just regular jail. Um, their whole story, I
They
did
escape
feel
pretty easy too.
they escaped really easily. You're telling me no one else has been able to escape this place throughout the years? Um, I, the emotional connection between them was good, but they didn't set up enough to make me care about it. I think that the pacing was awful. There was it drug and sometimes. Now I will say that I lost track of time in the movie as far as I didn't look at my phone to see what time the actual movie started, but I knew that it was like a hour and 51 minutes or something. And at the end, when I thought, okay, surely this is a conclusion, I looked at my phone to see what time it was, and I was like, oh my god, we still have 25 minutes left of this. Luckily, we didn't. So I was just off on my timing of it, but um, yeah, and I felt that way because I was like, this movie's never ending. And to me, another con that I have, the tone is all over the place. Like
Yes.
it shifts so abruptly. Like it just you go from one sequence to a completely different surrounding. And there was a couple times where some humor was added in that I thought was hokey. Like it just didn't work for me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just it was not good to me. So, um, you have any other
No,
cons that you've thought of?
like no something. No, you're absolutely right. Like the tone is all over the place. Like, and I don't know why, but when you were talking, I instantly thought of like Underworld. Like it feels like Underworld the whole movie. And like I really don't. It's like does Eric want to be like he's all over the place, and I get that. Like he was just kind of like a regular person, and this shit kind of just happened to him. But
Hmm.
like the writers, like they should have went dark. They like go full on dark with it. Like I wish they would have just did that instead of trying,
I
like you
agree.
mentioned, lighthearted. There's some jokes, and I want to point this out. Like you mentioned, this movie 1 hour 51 minutes. If you go on Wikipedia on the breakdown right now, it's basically 2 paragraphs, and it basically tells you everything. And it's kind of not a good thing if
Yeah,
you can tell the whole story in 2 paragraphs, and it's a 2 hour movie.
yeah,
Like that's really inflated. Because like if me and you do scene by scene, me and you always joke like, "Holy shit, we got 2,900 words," for an
yeah,
hour and a half movie, and this one's got like maybe 400 words. I would say like
yeah.
the runtime is
And
way too inflated.
and I think the tonal issues could have easily been solved. You can have two different tones in the movie, but I think it needs to be divided clearly. You can have a lighter tone and a more of a jokey joke tone at the beginning when they're falling in love, but then once the shit hits the fan and we're in the action, I want to leave that behind because you already made it dark as shit with all the gore and violence that we get, because there is a lot of it. Honestly, this is one of those movies, as far as the violence goes, that I could see them back in the day not getting an MPAA rated R. Like they would have sent this back and been like, no, this is an X, this is an NC-17, because of how much violence and gore is in it. So if you're already teetering that line, lean into it, go all in, and that bugged the shit out of me. So yeah, I guess we'll just wrap it up pretty quickly tonight. Do you what are your final thoughts, and if you want to throw a score out there, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll do that. Final thoughts. I just thought it was okay. I did think action, the violence. I really enjoyed it. I thought the opera scene was really good, or the opera house scene. All that was really good. It's entertaining. I was actually pretty impressed with Bill's action choreography. Like I wasn't familiar with his game. I thought it was pretty good. Like what he like. I don't know if he had a stunt double doing that stuff or not, but thought he was really good. Like Bill did shine in a lot of that. I'm really not familiar with the Crow's game, the source material, so I'm just watching it as a casual. If I were to rate it, I'd probably be kind of like Blade. I'd be in that 5, maybe 5.25 range at the highest. But that's just me being kind of neutral.
Okay, so that's out of 10, and I say that because I'm just gonna go ahead and say what I'm putting it at on Letterbox.
Yeah, 2.5 for me.
Yeah, I this is one of those movies that I saw people shitting on the trailer, and I ignored the trailer. I saw they played the trailer when I went to see some movie recently, and I just scrolled on my phone because I didn't want to know. I wanted to love this movie, I really did, and I saw all the negative feedback just on the trailer on X, and I was like, it's people just being haters. People are going to do that. This is a movie that if I didn't have Regal Unlimited and I went and saw tonight, I would be pissed off. I would want my money back. I always say support cinema, and I also say don't take your opinions from what I'm saying. Go see it for yourself, form your own opinions. But I want to do the listeners a service tonight. I want you to save your time and money. Don't watch this chunk of shit until it comes out on streaming, because I did not enjoy it. I think it's a bad movie, and I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 5 on Letterbox, and all of that 1.5 points are going to Bill Skarsgård. So that's my thoughts on the movie.
Hey,
I think
that's
that
fair. I get it.
Brandon Lee is rolling in his grave. He did not die for this. So anyway, we anything else you want to add?
Yeah, like you mentioned in the trailer, I did kind of make a TikTok about that, like all the hate it was getting. I'll just say on my last thing is like I didn't think the look was that terrible. Like the look kind of got shit on. I don't think his look was that bad at
I
all.
don't think it's bad either. I think that the reason it got that criticism is just because people were nostalgic about Brandon Lee's look, nostalgic about Sting in 1997 when he came back, and you're going to do that. That's natural. I like that it was a fresh take on the look personally. I think if they would have went full on, white face with the black around his eyes and mouth, that's too on the nose. That's trying too hard to recreate the magic. I actually will commend them again, also for a fresh take on that. So
Yes, I agree with that. I was going to say that if you didn't, I do give them props for doing
sorry.
something different than the original. No, I'm
Yeah,
I'm happy you said it, but I agree. Like I'm glad they didn't just do a shot for shot remake because then I would say, what's the point? I'm glad they
yeah,
did went a different route at least. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty content with that.
So that's another one. I'll give. Let's see who's the writer of this actual movie, the screenplay. Zach Balin and William Joseph Schneider. I'll give them credit for that. If you're going to do a remake and put something out there, put your own spin on it. Take chances. I commend them for taking chances. The chances just didn't hit for me. And I'll give props to Rupert Sanders too for directing the movie. Like I said, I do think there's some good cinematography. Like the opening scene, I think that the way that it's shot, we see a boy walking through a mud puddle. That's not a spoiler. That's literally the opening. I think that shot looked incredible. So there's a lot of good looking stuff in the movie. It didn't hit for me. But that's about 20 minutes of us giving you our thoughts on the movie, and we pretty much broke it down. So, like I said, if you support cinema, and if you just have $15, I don't know how much movie tickets cost these days, $10 plus a soda pop, maybe $20, 25, something like that. I don't know. But if you have just that and you want to blow it and you want to kill a couple hours, go see it. Let us know what you think after you see it. Let us know if you agree with us. Maybe I was too harsh. But appreciate everyone tuning in. Uh, Go to don'tgoouthere.com and be a blood donor. And we'll see you next time.
I